price is king, it's where we belong. Stay with the dream, don't lose your way. Right way's the fire that'll light the day. Keep it simple, let the moment arrive. 3-8 trap keeps the hope alive. Hold on tight till the signal's near. Right way's the trail, we're breaking through fear.
Good morning, fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for December 8th, 2025. Well, I hope everyone had a wonderful weekend, got some nice rest. We could have an interesting week with an FOMC meeting or FOMC decision on Wednesday. So we probably should buckle up and get ready for a little bit of wild market conditions. Let's take a look at what happened overnight. If we take a look at Asian markets, we saw Australia was down just slightly, $10.20 or 0.12%. Hong Kong was lower by 319.72, 1.23%. Korea was higher by 54.80, 1.34% higher. The Nikkei rose $90.07 or 0.18%. India was lower by 225.90 or 0.86%, and Shanghai moved up 21.27 or 0.54% higher. If we look at European markets here this morning, we have the DAX higher this morning by 58.24 or 0.24%. We have FTSE lower by $4.31 or 0.04%, and we've got the CAC down $10.84 or 0.13% lower. If we take a look at U.S. futures this morning, U.S. futures kind of flat, actually. The Dow has just recently gone into the green by 5 points. We've got S&P 500 futures up $4.50, and Nasdaq is the winner this morning, up 45 points even. Let's take a look at a few other things going on internal in the market. If we take a look at the bond prices, boy, those bonds continue to be pesky and continue to move up. Right now we've got the 2-year bonds at 3.58%. The 10-year bonds are up at $4.15%, and the 30-year bonds have climbed to 4.81% as we head toward that FOMC earnings. So it's interesting, very high confidence in a rate cut, and yet our bond rates are going up. Interesting things happening here in the market. Let's take a look at what's happening in the U.S. dollar. U.S. dollar here this morning, as you can see, is pretty flat. Right now, dollar futures are only down 2 cents. Not really gaining any ground here at the moment. We'll have obviously some resistance above to try and get through if we're going to be bullish in this market. That changed to that ellipse. We're going to have to get through this area up here, and of course we've got this trend break in here to deal with as well. Double top in here. It's just not looking too good in here in the US dollar, and with the rate cut I could easily see that possibility that could move on lower here in the market. So watch that carefully on the dollar. Now, if we take a look at what we have going on in precious metals, metals are struggling here just a little bit around the flat line as well. Right now, if we take a look at gold futures in a very bullish chart pattern, still setting up lower right now, down $1.90 in the futures, 4,241.10 an ounce in gold futures. If we take a look at silver this morning, silver futures are also lower by 24 cents, or we're at 58.81 an ounce in silver. Also very bullish overall chart pattern. If we take a look at copper Copper is a little bit lower here this morning by not quite a penny. And you can see here in COPX that we've made new record highs here on some of the miners. Take a look at Freeport breaking through some resistance up here, showing quite a bit of strength here in copper at the moment. And if we take a look at platinum, platinum this morning is moving up. Again, a very bullish pattern potentially setting up. That could be a higher low, holding that support right now up $15.80 an ounce, or 0.96%. And if we take a look at palladium, palladium trying to get through this resistance. We've tried several times trying to get through that resistance. Right now up 25.30 an ounce, or 1.68%. If you remember on Friday, we had cryptos moving back down, but we're picking up just a little bit here this morning. Right now we've got Bitcoin up 552.45 a coin, or 0.60%. We've got Ether higher by $6.77, or 0.22%, and Solana is up $2.89, or 2.12%. Let's take a look at what we've got going on. Let's see, in oil prices here this morning. Our oil futures at the moment are lower by 67.5 cents, pushing down from this resistance here in the chart. Still holding this little upside trend, trying to hang in there, but we are coming in at 59.40 a barrel this morning, seeing a little bit of pressure on those oil futures. Brent crude at the moment is at 63.08 a barrel. And if we take a look at natural gas is also pulling back here after the big screaming move on Friday, popping up, getting pretty substantial pullback here right now in nat gas. So watch that carefully, down 21.5 cents here this morning. Let's take a peek at what these indexes are doing, but how about we just settle in and let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Friday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thanks so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. Looking at these index charts, remember, we want to look at these for what they are, not for what we want them to be, meaning we want to shake off that bias and really focus in here on the details of these charts. Now, first off, when we look at the diamonds, pretty hard to see this as anything other than a very bullish chart. We do still have that potential in here that we could have a bit of a head and shoulders pattern in here, but right now I think the dominant theme that's going on, and certainly the confidence of the market, is this press here to the upside, and we're holding above some price support here in that chart. So if those bulls can really get going, I think the first thing we need to do is really crack that black candle, see if we can break through there, and then I think we have that chance we can rally on up and get some new record highs in the market. You got to remember the extreme confidence in this market right now. Valuations are not a concern here for the market. It's kind of surprising how much they are not a concern for the market, but at the moment it's all buyers all the time, and it looks like there's every reason to believe that we're going to get some new record highs this week. Now, if the bears were to come in with anything, if we were to get angry for some reason, a breakdown below this area of price support would be the first little bit of concern. And then we've got some price support right through here that we could test along with this resumption of this upside trend in here. So watch that carefully. Now, if we were to break below there, and I don't think we would have a whole lot of concern in the Dow unless we broke down through that level of support. Now, we can move in those big moves here in the market, and we are in a bit of an overextended condition here, but watch carefully for that. Right now, Market's trying to hold pat, and we're waiting on the FOMC. So I wouldn't be too surprised if we see some pretty substantial choppiness as we wait. If we take a look at the SPY, also bullish chart, pushing up, trying to break through up here. There's every reason to believe that that can continue to move on higher, and in this stretch to the upside, breaking through this resistance in here, trying to hold it. I think there's every reason to believe we could stretch right on up and test this recent high in the chart and have that new record high pretty easily, particularly with the influence of big tech and how, again, valuations don't matter. Just keep buying tech is what the market keeps suggesting. Be careful with that, and be careful chasing anything that's overextended. But that being said, there's still a lot of bullish patterns out there, and there's every reason to believe we can go higher. If we take a look at the opposite way in here, if the bears were to have anything to say, first step would be to break this support in here. Break that back down, start pushing back lower. We've got some price support right in there. And again, I don't think we get too terrible worried here in the SPY unless we were to break that support level in the chart. It is certainly possible to have big moves to the downside like that the way we are. We're kind of either all in or all out here in the market. So we need something in a catalyst to move us lower here. Watch that carefully in the SPY. QQQ, nice stretch on Friday. We popped, but then ended up leaving a bit of a shooting star in here on Friday, maybe suggesting we just got a little bit carried away in this stretch to the upside. But breaking through this resistance is a very good thing if you're a bull in the market. And I think first we'd have to break through Friday's high in here, and then we could start stretching up and testing these levels here in the chart. And it really wouldn't take all that much insight to see a possibility of setting new record highs here in the QQQ this week as well. If the bears were to get active in here, breaking back down below this area of price support does seem to be a possibility. And if we were to really get going, I think breaking this area here would probably raise a little bit of concern in the QQQ for the moment. And then if we take a look at our Russell IWM, nice stretch up here. We got new record highs last week here in IWM. Faded back a little bit on Friday, but no particular worries, and it looks like we've got some buyers coming in there trying to stretch on higher. So keep a close eye on that. Let's take a look at what we've got going on here in our VIX with the VIX. Whoops. Man, I take a couple of days off and I can't type and I can't talk, and so forgive me. Seeing a little bit of a pullback here, continuing in the VIX on Friday. We broke this area of price support. Volatility coming back in, well, at least the fears coming back in the market. I'm not sure the volatility is ebbing all that much. We still have really wide bid-ask spreads in places in the market. We need to start seeing those calm down if we're going to stay this kind of uber confidence in the overall market. Next area lower, if we continue to push on down, I would suggest coming down into this area of price support in the VIX, and then of course we might move right on through to new lows here, the way the VIX is acting at the moment. So keep an eye on that. Our T2122, the stock's above the 2-day moving average, or the 2-day, the 4-week new high ratio here in the market. As you can see, we pulled back here on Friday just a bit, so it did open up some space. If the bulls have anything to say, then we have got some room now to move to the upside. So if we can get some bullish action in here, every reason to believe we can follow through to the upside. If the bears have anything additional to say, we had that pullback happen Friday afternoon, then I think we've got a pretty good opportunity for those bears to work as well to the downside. So watch that carefully here. Our T2108 percentage of stocks above the 40-day moving average also pulled back slightly on Friday, but no damage in here at all. We continue to hold above that 50% area in the chart. So we've got just over half the stocks above their 40-day moving average in on T2108. We still have that little concern maybe that this downtrend may still have some challenges to it. If we get some bullish action, though, I think there's every reason to believe that we could pop this up here and maybe be moving up here into that mid-50s area and maybe even up towards 60% of the stocks above their 40-day moving average. Now, if the bears were to have anything to say in here, I think breaking down below that 50% might be a little bit concerning, but probably only concerning if it were to really move sharply lower and start breaking through some of these support levels here in the chart. So watch that carefully, but right now confidence for the market is continuing to be higher. And T2107 also just kind of rested in there on Friday, and we held above that 50-day move or 50% area here in the chart. Once again, we still have this little downtrending in here area to be a little bit of upside resistance, but I think if those bulls were to get going, pushing up here into that 52, 53 area doesn't seem to be all that much of a problem for the bulls to be able to achieve that. And if we can break through there, then we start moving back up toward 55% here in T2107. And if the bears were to do anything, a push down below this 50% might raise a little bit of concern, but here again, I think we're going to have to push pretty hard for this to be a problem. Breaking some of these areas support, continuing to push on down. We've got some pretty decent support here around that mid area of 45 in here. So right now the bulls are in control and clearly holding in here on T2107. And then T2101, this is our real problem child. T2101, the breadth of the market continues to follow. We've been seeing this day after day after day, and that is weakness in breadth. There is that uncertainty, I think, out there with these valuations, and we're struggling in here with that breadth. The good news is we've been starting to widen out a little bit. We're seeing more areas of the market getting some attention as maybe we're deleveraging a little bit from the big tech giants, but watch that carefully here. If that breadth continues to fall, particularly on a bullish wave, that sets us up that opportunity for some pretty big whipsaw type price action in the market. So be careful with that. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here for today. And our economic calendar, we don't have a whole lot going on here today to be worried about. We've got a couple of bill auctions, a 3 and 6 month bill auction and a 3-year bill auction in here that we'll be dealing with this afternoon. And that's it on the day for the economic numbers. As we look through the rest of the week, you can see we're going to start picking up a few more reports here on Tuesday. We've got the FOMC meeting starting. We've got an NFIB small business optimism report, productivity and cost job openings. And then throughout the week, we've got some potentially market moving reports. But watch that closely here as we move into this FOMC. That's going to be the most notable thing of this week. So watch that carefully. Let's take a look at what we have going on our earnings calendar here for today. In our earnings calendar, we're really winding down, the number of earnings, but we've got some notables in here to be keeping an eye on. And then remember, our biggest notable coming up this week is going to be Broadcom, so keep an eye out for that. But starting today, not much going on in here. The only notables that I have for the day, CMP will be reporting. oops, excuse me, that is, yeah, and this is after the close. And then we've got PHR, and we've got Toll Brothers after the close. There are no notables here for this morning. So not a whole lot of inspiration going on today, with very little on the calendar for the economic calendar and the earnings calendar. It's going to be a pretty light news morning unless there's something political or otherwise that comes out. So watch that carefully. Let's take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube, and also click that bell icon. When it pops up, you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you could do me that favor and click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to continue to grow. Thank you so much for everyone who takes the time to do that. I do truly appreciate it. And thanks for the kind support. Sharing these videos out on your social media feed, those kind of things really help a lot. And remember, even an emoji counts in that comment section, because that shows engagement to YouTube. So thank you, everyone who does take the time to do that. Let's take a look at what we have going on here in some of these stocks, and remember, they are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. Do your own due diligence. Be very careful. You know, one thing you should never ever do is blindly follow anyone else's trade ideas. So make sure you're following your rules and your guidelines for every trade. Let's take a look at a few of these. Now, one of the things that we have certainly seen is a lot going on in mining, metals and mining. They have been really strong. Take a look at VALE. Good strong pullback here on Friday. Dark cloud piercing candle in here, but watch that carefully. If this holds in here, I still think there's some more upside potential in these miners. When we look at things like GDX, this is a very bullish pattern in here on GDX. Nice little resting consolidation out here to trend, and then wouldn't take a whole lot to see that poke on through and make new record highs in GDX. You could take a look at the junior miners. They are also setting up that very bullish pattern. All we need is that little push, and we would have some record highs likely coming here in GDX, maintaining that upside trend. So keep an eye on that. And you can look at any of the individual miners out there. Take a look at Barrick Gold. Barrick is setting up beautifully, really nice bullish flagging pattern, and every reason to believe that could push on through to the upside. Keep an eye on Barrick. Looking pretty good overall. And as far as that goes, we have already taken a look at gold, but you can take a look at GLD. This is a very bullish pattern, holding in this upside trend, just resting out here toward the trend. We just need that little push of here in the market, and with a rate cut coming and the likelihood that the dollar will decline in value, we could easily see gold move on higher. You could also look at PHYS if you're looking for something a little bit cheaper. Come on. There we go. Looking for something just a little bit cheaper to trade. PHYS can get you in on the physical gold ETF. I've traded this a lot, really like it. Watch that carefully for that potential that could push on through. And then for silver, same thing, very bullish in here. Might have to rest just a little bit more out here to trend, and then I think there's every reason to believe that could continue to stretch on up and make new record highs here in silver. You could also look at PSLV for physical silver as another alternative out there to trade. Let's take a look at some other areas of the market. You know, we have been seeing some pretty good moves in some of the oil producers. Even though prices have been falling, we've been seeing some of these producers moving up. Schlumberger this last week breaking through resistance of this base. Now, any little rest or pullback in here might set up an opportunity for that to move on higher. Devon was making some moves in here, stretching to the upside. Still got to break through this resistance up here, but you can see if we could get out of this base in here, moving on through, then I would look for some more upside potential there in Devon. Take a look at Fang breaking through this base in here. Nice little stretch to the upside. Little rest or pullback in here, I think, sets up an opportunity in Fang. So keep an eye on some of those oil sector stocks. They are looking pretty good overall in the market. Also, if we take a look at some of the things here in financials, if we take a look at XLF breaking through those big financials, breaking through this resistance up here, and now just any kind of little rest, consolidation, pullback in there. There may be an opportunity to resume an upside trend to the upside, and you can take a look at JP Morgan. JP Morgan breaking that downtrend in here. Goldman has been incredibly bullish, breaking through to the upside. Morgan Stanley, big stretch there in Morgan. I would say Morgan probably needs a little rest first before I'd be interested in it, but keep an eye on some of those stocks looking pretty good overall. You might want to keep an eye on some of the defensive sector areas as well. If we take a look at old boring stocks, stocks that are good strong dividend payers, things like Verizon popping through this downtrend in here on Friday, I would keep an eye on that. If it can continue that push, clearly we've got quite a bit of resistance up here to deal with in that chart. But if that can find that energy to push right on through there, I would be watching that pretty closely for that opportunity. A little rest in here, and then maybe that pops on through, continues that move to the upside. I'd watch that carefully. AT&T tried and then kind of slipped back here. May have a little bit more basing that needs to be done. Watch that closely in here. And then when we look at some of the other defensive type stocks in here, we're seeing things like Target trying to bottom in here, breaking through this bottom and holding, little resting pattern in there. You might want to keep an eye on that. We certainly don't have to worry about Walmart on the bottom. Walmart is racing to the upside. This is one I'd be really careful chasing at the moment. Too many days to the upside, need some rest or pullback. Watch that carefully in Wally World, but obviously showing a lot of strength. Costco has tried a couple of times to show us some energy in here to pop out, but boy, it continued to stay weak on Friday, rejecting that downtrend resistance. So remember, we still have to be very picky and choosy on these trades, so watch that carefully. Boy, I've got to tell you, Google is showing lots of strength in here, and Google holding this nice little resting pattern. Every reason to believe that could find that bullishness in here, continue to push on higher, so keep an eye on that. And Apple continuing to stay very bullish and strong in here for that potential move to the upside. I'd be a little bit concerned right now with NVIDIA. And I'm sorry, these are 2-day charts. NVIDIA testing some resistance here in the chart. Just be really careful in chasing that at the moment. Let's see if it can break through this resistance and prove to hold in there. We still have a little bit of concern on NVIDIA. There's that Apple, and that Apple resting pullback in there, setting up that buy, and Google showing lots of strength. So keep an eye on those. AMD might be trying to hold a little higher low. Once again, I'd be a little bit careful in here with all that resistance in the chart. We could easily see a little bit more selling, a little bit of drift back into those areas. And then start keeping an eye on some of these old boring stocks. Coke has pulled back quite a bit here, but take a look at Monster, beautiful pattern in here. This little resting pullback coming back into that upside trend. Good, strong company out there, and that every reason to believe that could stretch on through to the upside. And we've been seeing some stocks coming up out of these bottoms like Colgate, definitely not Campbell Soup. Hershey has been coming up nicely in here for that move to the upside. So keep an eye on some of these old borings. We're starting maybe to diversify out here just a little bit. Keep an eye on some of those defensive area sector stocks in the market. They could have some pretty good potential, so watch those closely. So with that, everyone, hey, I want to wish you all a fantastic day. I want to wish you great results in your trading. Thank you so much for being here today. Hopefully I'll get my head screwed on straight and I'll be able to talk tomorrow. Y'all take care, be safe, and as always, I wish you all the very, very best.
Black and white candles, my stars in the dark. Price is my king, got that fire and spark. Rideways my ranch on the trader's trail. Trading with heart where the profits prevail.